All right, folks. I had to do a little adjustment. It's not quite the way I wanted to do it, but it's the way that I did do it. So, if you are going to visit the channel right now, we are going to talk about relapse and all the things that occur while I relapsed in the past. If you have ever experienced something so traumatic where you couldn't break free and you couldn't protect yourself from your own self and the things that were occurring in your relapse, you're in the right place. If this camera skips around a little bit, I had to do with what I had to do because I'm an alcoholic and I had to make changes to adjust to life the way it is. Which brings me to the point of relapse. I ended up relapsing due to the point that I tried to control every single thing in my life the way I wanted it and the way that I wanted it right now. And that sent me only to one place, folks. That sent me straight into the bottom of a bottle. And there was no way out for me until I was able to experience the pure fact of rigorous honesty. I'm going to grab myself a little stand to hold this phone. And for now, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you showing up. If you were there before, welcome back. I'm Wayne. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm going to talk about some of the relapse stories that I've heard about on the social media platforms. And it kind of threw me off guard because there is so much going on with the pandemic and everything else on the globe that there's just so much stress and tension and panic and definitely uncertainty that people are headed to the bottle and they don't know anything else. Well, the bottle of drug or whatever your thing is. And I just wanted to have a discussion about that. And I say hello to you. And if you just drop your name or whatever you want to be called in the comment section on the right hand side, that'd be awesome. We can get a little dialogue going. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my past relapses. And some people say that is an excuse. I don't agree. I think that the things that we have to use in order to identify change is what's going to make us stronger in the future. If you agree with that, slap a like and let's just see what we can get going on. Going to hang out just for a second. I'm going to find a little stand for this phone. I apologize for the sketchiness of this lens, but we're going to make it happen. Hang out. I'll be right there. Hey, Noik. All right. This is actually not Amber. However, my live streams have been a little shady because of the width of the internet that I have and the processor in my computer, which I am making changes in order to make this a little bit better for you. And, it's just what it is. You got to live life on life's terms. You know what I mean? All right. So during my past relapses, one of the ones that I talked about on the past live stream that was strictly audio with Bruno occurred when I was living in an apartment in up towards Ansbach, Germany. And I don't know if you know where that is or you might know someone who does. But so there I was living in my own apartment, and that is a bad thing for an alcoholic like me because I had all the time in the world to do what I wanted. And I was a soldier at the time. So for me to be able to live that way was definitely key to my alcoholism as it took off. The place was full of bottles and full of freaking food cartons because I just was so embarrassed to take all that stuff out, you know. And that's a whole nother story in itself. There was thousands and thousands of bottles in there, and my father-in-law actually helped me clean it out. And you know what? He didn't even yell at me. He just gave me this look like you just wasted a bunch of euros, and that was that. Anyway, so back to the relapse, right? So I was actually on holiday at the time. I was on vacation, and I did not expect my phone to ring because I've been ignoring that phone for about a week and a half in a binge. I was pretty successful at it, and the phone rang, and I answered that joker. And unfortunately, I didn't even realize that I was still drunk at the time. And apparently, I mumbled some words, and the person that was on the other end came over. Little to their surprise, I was already like 98 sheets in the wind, and he told me that, he was going to take my beer and everything else. And I started to cuss him out, and I probably swung on him. I'm not sure. It was a complete blackout at that point. But what I do remember is him knocking a beer bottle out of my hands, and it fell onto the floor and broke. Well, me being the alcoholic that I was and realizing that this may be my last chance to get a drink, I drank it anyway. I picked it up and I started drinking, and I'm pretty certain that I stabbed myself in the face a couple times with the bottle. And he just started yelling at me. He started pushing me around and telling me that, I'm out of my mind, I'm out of control. Now, here's the kicker, folks, is that he was my subordinate when I was actually over there stationed as a sergeant for them. And he was showing me love and care. And at the time, I just saw him as an enemy who was trying to take my drink away. So I black out. I end up at a McDonald's, don't know how, with a face full of like a hamburger or something. I definitely didn't feel like eating. And then I just woke up on my apartment floor covered in blood and just at my wits' end about what just happened. Hey, if you are able to give me about 30 seconds, can you give me a thumbs up so that way I can go grab a stand for this? Because it's dangling all over the place. And also, thanks for being here. I'll be right back. Don't leave, okay? I'll be right back about 20 seconds. All right, I want to thank you for hanging out with me. I'm going to see what I can do right here just to make this a little bit better. Ah, there we go. That's not bad, is it? All right, so actually, that's a lot better than I thought it would be. I'm wasting your time at all. So there I was, folks. I was at my wits' end, and I figured the only way for me to improve the way that I am is I have to actually flat out admit that I am a complete alcoholic and out of my mind. And my insanity level was just so great that I couldn't even get beyond myself to say that. And I was compelled. What I was compelled to do, folks, is as a discussion I had with Bruno the other day. And Bruno, if this is you, man, what's up, bro? If it's not, I welcome this you who you are to the channel. And I run this channel basically, and I'm going to go back to the rest of that in a second. I run this channel to share my experiences so that someone out there who is suffering can actually have the opportunity to say, you know what? I'm not alone, man. And I know some of my videos are a little mundane and And they may sound a little repetitive and everything else, but there's always a repetitive message to how I live my life in recovery. And that is, I have to be able to share what it is that is in my mind, get it out in the universe, and see what happens. And just take life as it comes, man, because like Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That was probably a bad impression. But I say that to say this, man, is, I had to be rigorously honest with myself. And that falls into today's daily reflection. And that might not be your thing either. But the message is the same and the message is clear. And, you don't have to be someone in AA in order to get that. And you don't have to, believe in a higher power and everything else, because not everybody does. I get that. I totally understand. Um, but for today's daily reflection, being rigorously honest with yourself, I have to be honest about my shortcomings and my character defects. And I have to be willing to admit if I did somebody wrong and, what's my part in this? And that's where I think a lot of people end up in relapse, is that, we alcoholics or we addicts are not so much willing to admit our faults and things. And that is a character defect in itself. Do we run to the bottle? Do we run to the drug? Or can you look in the mirror and say, yes, I'm wrong at this point in time. What can I do to be better? For me, that's where avoiding a relapse or a setback or a slip, or however you want to phrase it, that's where that truth lies for me, is that if I'm able to work parts of my life based out of honesty, then I can avoid a lot of resentments and I can avoid a lot of guilt and anger and frustration and panic. And as I said in the beginning of this, sort of, kind of, is that our daily intake of ego is so large of everything we do. And I'm speaking for myself, really, because I don't know what you think. Drop your comment right there on the right and let me know. So our ego is so large that we've really spent a lot of our times shaping everything around us to fit our need. Avoiding a relapse or avoiding a setback or a slip can be done in terms of service to somebody else, can be done doing something for somebody else instead of yourself. Because if you don't spend so much time wrapped up in trying to be self-fulfilled, there's not that much time to say you failed at something, or you're not good at something, or you're not good enough. And for me, that goes all the way back to childhood, and that goes all the way back, to rehab and everything else, where I worked out some of those issues and I worked out on and on and on. But what I really wanted to, and you can answer this, and because of my speedy internet, I might get the answer in about like 98 minutes. What would tip you over the edge, or what has tipped you back to the drink or the drug? And how would you avoid that in the future? Because I can ramble on and on and on about how I would do it. And I'm sober almost 5 years, and I still get tempted once in a while, and I still have fleeting thoughts of drinking. And you may have your own fleeting thoughts, or your thoughts are constant based off of what your situation is. We can't do everything by ourselves. And I think that that whole reach out period is, something that a lot of folks are apprehensive about, saying, hey, I need a little help, or hey, my thoughts are maybe a little whack. What do you think about this? And someone else can throw that back to you, and you're like, wow, that does sound a little ridiculous. And you may realize that that thought is not exactly 100% reality. And you may be able to step outside of yourself and correct that. Now, I'm definitely not a doctor, and I'm definitely not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor, and I'm not a social worker. But I am here for you guys, and I'm here for whatever you might need from me. So if you have something you want to add to that, drop your comment below. And if this is actually coming through and you actually are hearing what I'm putting out and the video actually looks pretty good, give a thumbs up because I was trying out this other Sony camera and I don't know, man. I have a capture card and all that stuff. I just don't know why my computer is so confused of just multitasking. Perhaps it's drunk. As an alcoholic, right? I said that for a reason. As an alcoholic, I tried to do so much on my own. I never wanted to ask for help and I never wanted to, admit I was wrong in anything, especially because of my job, man. I was I was a senior NCO in the United States Army and I had soldiers beneath me, I had officers above me, and I had all these people that depended on me. And so I never wanted to be the person to let them down. And this is actually what kind of led to, me going back to the bottle is that I put so much pressure on myself and I built my ego to be so grandeur and so big that fudge, man. I in a different way and I don't know if you can relate to that or not. If you can, drop a comment. I'll drop a comment. Let's see how long this takes to get to you. And I felt failure in such a way that if there was any other opportunity for me to, and this sounds fuck freaking bizarre, right? If I could kill myself, I would, but I couldn't. And I was even a coward in that. But I was so full of fear and so full of fear of failing and judgment that I did everything possible to avoid looking like a fool, to get the mission done. And it was so much pressure and so much anxiety that I had no choice but to decompress all that at night. And that ended up in the form of, a rack of beer or, whatever it was. I was up to about 18 beers a night and I had to be to work at 4:45 in the morning, folks. For me, that was getting bad. And some other folks out there, maybe you can relate to that. And I don't know. I mean, it seemed like the way to get rid of my stress and it seemed like the way to, you know, breathe a little bit easier, if you can understand that. And it seemed like a better way to process all these pressures that were being put on me and be able to deliver it all the next day. Little did I know that I was drunk as hell going to work every single day. If you can relate to that one, you understand exactly what I'm saying. Because for me as an active alcoholic, I was dangerous because I was a dead walker and you know the the way that I processed all that was such a derailment to everything in my life that I was working for. I didn't even notice that I was an alcoholic. I just knew that I drank too freaking much. I'm putting a message on here. Maybe you'll see it when my internet catches up. I don't know. It's kind of a poorly worded question. I just want to find out if this sits with you. All right, so it's sent. Maybe it's going to take a few moments to get to you. I don't know. All right, so what I came to when I went to rehab, and I spoke a little bit about this in in my video. I'm not just an alcoholic. So when I went to rehab, I started developing all kinds of what I thought were pretty good coping skills, and I thought that I had a grasp on how to handle triggers, um, events that would come up, and everything else. And I really thought I had a grip on how to be sober. Man, was I wrong. What I didn't realize is there's a full chemical takeover in one's brain when a substance is introduced to it and it becomes reliant on that substance. Now, I'm not a doctor or a scientist or anything like that. So I was reading not even like 10 minutes ago, and if it's cool, I'm just going to throw out like a small bit of information. I'm going to just read it real quick. I won't lose too much time here. All right, as far as relapsing, you've created tolerance and the disease of addiction has taken hold. The unfortunate side effect of this mutation is that your nucleus ac- accumbens now has too many neuroreceptors designed to handle dopamine, norepinephrine, nor, norepinephrine, I'm sorry, and serotonin. As a result, where there is a lack of neurotransmitters in your nucleus accumbens, your brain tells you to get more of the addictive substance so your body can be in balance once again. When this happens, it is called withdrawal or and is another reason for your cravings. All right, so whole science behind it, right? I I would say that I kind of knew that because when I was when I stopped drinking, it didn't matter if it was for an hour or if it was for 3 days. When I would stop, boom, I would start going into cold sweats. I would start going into a panic. My heart would start racing, and I'm talking about racing to the point where it was beating out of my chest, folks. And on and on and on of all these symptoms. My hands would shake. They would be sweaty all the time, and until folks, until I got a drink. When I put that drink down, when I put that drink in there, I was gold. I was gold, folks. It felt so relieving and so good once that alcohol hit my bloodstream that I was relieved from the very first sip. If you hear that and that sits with you, definitely hit that thumbs up button because, well, why not? So there I was, right? I now knew when I get these cravings and when I get these triggers, and I now know what withdrawal is. I can recognize that, right? I can recognize it all day long. And I had to graduate. I had, well, you can call it graduate. I had to go through Genesis in rehab. Not even, not even 2 days later, 2 days, I was gone. I found the liquor store, I found the racks, and I was drunk. I probably spent the next week and a half consistently drunk, passed out, blacked out, knocked out, or all of the above at any given point in time. So much crazy crap happened during that week and a half. I cannot even think of it all because it's all kind of a blur. And I went into this kind of state where I couldn't get free. I couldn't eat and I couldn't answer the phone and on and on and on. But I could make it to if I had to get more. And I could drive my car downtown to the tank stella to get more beer. All these things that were not only a danger to myself, but everyone that I came in contact with. I could do all those things in order to get the next drunk. This was during the one of that I lost my fucking mind. And if my cussing just offended you, I apologize, but that's what it was. I'm only going to run this about, I don't know, let's say about 20 more minutes. If you want to hang out, that's awesome. If you want to participate, drop a comment below because this whole thing is really for you. It's not for me. And I don't know. So there I was in this state, right? And I was so so mad at myself for failing the rehab that I just really wanted to punch somebody in the face. And that's how I felt about it. And so I committed to self-violence. And this was all during drunken stupors and the blackouts and everything else. And I cut myself. I beat the stupid out of myself and on for weeks. I was gone from that point probably about 2 more years until I would end up getting sober for good or for today. For years, I was gone. So I went back out full speed ahead. As a matter of fact, I was worse. I was worse than when I stopped in rehab. And that is the cost of a relapse, man, is that an alcoholic like me will try to pick up where I left off. I will try to consume every possible thing that I can because I know I can. So, example is I was up to about in a 2 day period, and this is not bragging, man. This is just what it is. In a 2 day period, I could probably consume anywhere between 50 and let's just call it 85, 90 beers. And these are, it had to be 5.5% or higher, and it had to be 20 ounces or more. That's what I drank. So it got to this point where now I had no money. I had no money. I drank all my money. I was drinking all my family's money and on and on and on. That I was borrowing money. I was begging for money. But somehow I always got it. Somehow I always got the just right amount of alcohol to get me right back to where I was. One night, one day, I woke up. I know I started drinking, right? And this is during relapse period of 2 years. I know I ended up drinking and I went to, I guess, Nuremberg. Well, I must have gotten to like a very good group of Russians and I started talking to them. I started hanging out with the women. And then I saw Romanians. And I said, you know what? I think I bet I could pin them against each other and then take their money. And so that's what I did, man. So I pinned them Russians against the Romanians by talking smack and saying, one thing to one group, one thing to another. Now, I didn't know that at any point in time, if they found out that I was BSing both of them, they would probably kill me. So I did this. And then the next thing I know, I wake up bloody, being pulled out of some bushes in the middle of the freaking highway. Well, I blacked out again. I thought I ended up in jail. That's what I really thought. I thought I got picked up by police and ended up in jail. But I didn't. I ended up in my room and I had to be in at work the next day. Go figure. And apparently one of my officers in command pulled me out of them bushes. Don't know how, don't know why. But they were all staring at me. I was all bruised up and everything else. And, I'm pretty sure I looked like crap. I probably smelled, and I didn't even think so because I was like, I brushed my teeth. I'm good to go. And yeah, the officer that pulled me out of the bushes leans into me and says, hey, man, did you have a good time last night? I was like, yeah, I kind of did, I guess. He's like, I'm the one that pulled your ass out of them bushes. Come see me later. And I knew the gig was up, man. I knew it was up from that moment. So I was pretty sure already that I lost. Hit that like button. I'll stop. I was pretty sure that I lost everything in that moment. I was pretty sure that, I already knew my wife wasn't coming back. And all these things that were so chaotic and unnecessary in my life, but that alcohol, that beer had control over me. And I thought I was good. I honestly did not. I was such a destructive alcoholic, regardless if I went to rehab. did all these awesome things and made such progress that everybody was proud of me. I still didn't dawn on me that I was an alcoholic. I knew I was an alcoholic the whole time since I was a kid, and I would just chalk it up to my dad's an alcoholic, my grandpa's an alcoholic. Why not? And so there, in those moments, I was like, "Fuck, I am, I am an alcoholic." There was quite a few moments like that before I even took it serious, and before I even realized that you know there's so much more to life than just getting drunk. And that goes all the way back to, this whole point is relapsing. Relapsing is something that, unfortunately, a lot of folks don't like to call it a part of recovery, but it's inevitable if you don't grasp certain truths about yourself and if you don't reach out to people that can actually help you. And that would be an alcoholic or an addict who went exactly through the same things that you went through. Maybe not the exact experiences, but they know a little something about what you know, and they know a lot about themselves, and they can help you learn about yourself. Now, I don't say most of the time that Alcoholics Anonymous is going to be the way to save you, or Narcotics Anonymous is going to be the way to save you. However, since I've worked a 12-step program and since I've been an alcoholic in recovery, every single day I reflect on the steps and I see where I'm at. And I see what applies for today. That's what I do. And I see what can help me get through, and I see what can help me make better choices for me and my family. And that is something I think is a lesson that can never be taught. It can only be learned through this pain of being an alcoholic or an addict, or anybody in any addiction, really. And for those, I hold these truths to be self-evident. I was about to go into a whole nother, I don't know, speech, but I think that's preamble to the Constitution or something. Where'd I go? All right. So being rigorously honest with myself, and this is the kind of the capstone here, allows me to know that I am an alcoholic. And if I drink, I will die. And that is true in the metaphor and in the literal sense for me. Because I know that if I drink that one beer, I'm going to drink until it's gone. And it doesn't matter where it is. And it doesn't matter what the consequence is, because I've been there and I've done that. I don't want to go back down that road, man, because my movie ends so horribly. It's like a car crash. And it ends so badly that I don't want to experience that movie ever again. And I told Bruno about this, and it's also on my audio on my other live stream, because that's just really the metaphor that I live by. I know that I'm an alcoholic, and if I drink, and if I don't die physically, I know that I'm going to be emotionally bankrupt. I know that I'm going to be spiritually bankrupt, and I know that my family is. These things I know. So for me, I will not drink today, and I hope you won't either. And if you do feel like you are having some problems dealing with your own triggers and your own truths, and you are having a hard time getting rigorously honest, feel free to DM me at One Sober to Another on Twitter, Reddit, or Instagram, and I will definitely hit you back. And if you want my email, I'll give it to you right now. Is one sober to another at gmail.com. So I hope you enjoyed this small little bit of what I had on my mind. I hope you found it helpful. And if there's anything that I can do for you in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. You guys are awesome. I'm One Sober to Another. I'm glad I rambled, even though there's been one visitor. You're awesome. And I hope you have a good day. Good night. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. I'm such a noob. You are awesome. Have a good day. Have a good day. Bye bye. I'm going to do that until it ends. So if you want to hang out, you can. I'll even do this. Watch this.